Well, now there's a question that is still ferociously debated. Who was it that betrayed the gunpowder plot? The gunpowder plot was cooked up by a group of radical Catholic young angry men who were furious at King James for going back on his promises to be nicer to Catholics in Britain. And their plot was to blow up the Houses of Parliament on the state opening, the day of the state opening. And that would have meant that they wouldn't have only got the king, they'd have got the bishops, some of the king's family, they would have got all the lords, everybody, like the entire government, gone. Their original plan was to bury underneath the Houses of Parliament, but that proved really difficult when all of a sudden, lo and behold, a cellar becomes available directly underneath. So Thomas Percy, one of the conspirators here, rents it, and the plan then becomes to fill it with a metric ton of dynamite. This is an insanely audacious plan that, had it worked, would have been, definitely the biggest act of terrorism in the UK in its history. The problem with any kind of plan like this is it needs money, it needs backing, it needs support, and that means that you have to tell people. These are the original conspirators here. Guy Fawkes was actually the demolition guy, that's why he was brought on board. The Houses of Parliament was due to open on the 5th of November 1605. Robert Catesby is the group's leader, and as the 5th of November is getting closer and closer, they're running out of money, so he starts to bring in other people into the plot, including this guy here, Francis Tresham. Now, he is a Catholic and sympathetic to their cause, but he's also very rich and very well connected and just so happens to have two brother-in-laws who would be in the Houses of Parliament on the 5th of November. He gets brought in, but as the plot is revealed to him, he's realising that it's going to involve him killing his brothers-in-law and friends as well. And the king and all of the government, which even if you don't like them, is an extreme plan. He is definitely the wink leak in this chain. His brother-in-law is this person, Lord Monteagle, who is a Catholic but is sucking up to the Protestants, and he's just a bit of a career climber. He's a bit of a brown noser. He's not to be trusted. On the 26th of October, Lord Monteagle received a letter. This letter, to be precise, and this is the translation. Pause to read at your leisure. But the gist of it is, don't go to Parliament, for fuck's sake. You're going to be delivered of a terrible blow. The word blow is used. Go hunting, find something else to do, just don't go. Lord Monteagle said that this letter was given to his servant in the street, in the dark, a mysterious figure, and he's got no idea where it came from. And even though it's really late at night, Monteagle decides, I have to go and deliver this to the authorities, and he goes to this person, Robert Cecil, the Secretary of State and the King's spymaster, and a super, super clever guy. Robert Cecil reads the letter, thinks, something's up here, and then he waits almost a week to give it to the king, where he kind of plays dumb and waits for the king to say, I think that this means gunpowder, which he does when he realises the word blow. The idea that Cecil wouldn't have known, but he's letting the king think that he figured it out, and then the cellars are searched. But who wrote that letter? The obvious candidate is Francis Tresham, and certainly when news gets back to the conspirators that the jig is up, they go after him immediately and they threaten to kill him, but he manages to convince them by swearing on a Bible it definitely wasn't him, he didn't do it. And quite why at that point they don't abandon the plot entirely is another mystery, but they don't. They decide they're going to press on anyway. It might have been Tresham, but if he wanted to tell Monteagle, why the letter in the middle of the night? It's his brother-in-law. He could just go and just have a word in his shell like, don't go. Some people think Monteagle designed the letter, staged the letter himself. Because although the plotters were supposed to be keeping things close to the chest, the news did get out, people did know. So did he hear about this and thought, well, I don't want to let these people down and make it obvious that I'm the grass, so he staged the letter. Some people think that's what happened. But I personally think this person here, Lord Cecil, Robert Cecil, knows a lot more about this plot than he ever actually lets on. The way this is all discovered has an air of window dressing about it, of being stage managed. For one thing, when Monteagle tears across the city in the middle of the night to give him this letter, it's almost like Robert Cecil is waiting for him. Then Cecil takes almost a week. What the fuck's he doing for a week to show it to the king? The king decides the cellars are going to get searched on the 4th of November, right? So it's going to be at the State Parliament is the next day, and this guy's got wind of a gunpowder plot to blow up that event, and he's waiting until the 4th of November to search the cellars for the first time. And the cellars are searched, and what they discover is an empty room with a whole load of barrels and firewood in it that's being looked after by some guy. They also discover that the cellar is being rented by a known Catholic, and even at that point, Cecil doesn't swoop. He goes back to the king and he goes, look, we found there's just this guy here and it's being rented by a Catholic. Again, letting the king have ownership of it, and then it's the king who goes, look, search it again. And then at midnight, just after midnight on the 5th of November, so this is like up to the wire, they go and search the cellars, they find the gunpowder, and then Guy Fawkes is arrested. So either Cecil is a complete idiot who couldn't put two and two together and it's just extremely lucky that it was caught when it was, or Cecil knew about this for a long time and he was letting the plot develop. Did he stage the letter? Did he know that Monteagle was going to stage the letter? Maybe it was from Francis Tresham. But personally, I think that Robert Cecil was aware of the plot for a lot longer than anyone was aware of, and he was just letting it unfold. He waited until the 11th hour and he waited to the most dramatic moment to make his move. Although we'll never know for sure who the leak was, I don't think they were ever going to succeed in this plan. I think that Cecil had wind of it early on. Let me know what you think.